It is better to travel hopefully than to arrive. These words of Robert Louis Stevenson are often echoed in the way people talk about life. It's all about the journey, they say, not the destination. Since I greatly enjoyed Stevenson's Treasure Island and have often thought about running away to be a pirate, I'm very sympathetic to this view. The pirate's life is all about the journey, a journey of freedom and excitement. And this could be an attractive view of life in general, for three reasons. First, we need to avoid stagnation. We need to grow. The journey brings a sense of adventure, of moving into the unknown and facing new challenges. The opposite would be to sit around doing nothing, getting bored. Second, putting all our trust into the moment of arrival is going to lead to disappointment. Great expectations are dashed. Great plans come to nothing. We often meet with failure, and that's not a very inspiring thing. It's more exciting and more realistic, perhaps, to see life as an ongoing gauntlet or assault course through which we just have to slog. Try and fail, try again, fail better. Third, we'd rather forget about the destination when it's not even on the horizon. We can't see the end of the tunnel, but don't worry, we'll get there eventually. Or someone else will get us there. Who knows? As Oscar Romero said, we're not the master builders, only the workers. Or to change metaphors again, we say we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Or perhaps we think we can see the end, and it's a scary sight. We peer into the future and see potential disasters. We know we will die, and we know that the universe will die. And we'd rather not think about it. Isn't it more sensible and realistic to focus on one step at a time? You can see why Stevenson's saying is very plausible. To travel, hopefully, means to trust in the present and avoid getting anxious about the future. And didn't Jesus himself say, "Do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own"? But Stevenson isn't quite right, I think. To begin with, his saying is actually illogical. To travel hopefully means to hope for the arrival, to hope that the journey will, sooner or later, come to a satisfactory end. There is no hope without belief in the destination. But if you seriously believe Stevenson and would rather travel hopefully than arrive, then you have lost hope in the destination. You believe the destination won't bring you anything better than the journey. And so you can no longer travel hopefully. You can only travel aimlessly. And I think everyday experience shows this to be true. If you're stuck in traffic on the M25, you crawl along in the hope of eventually getting home, and the sooner the better. Or if you're on a turbulent flight, you just hope the pilot will safely bring the plane to land, preferably at the expected destination. Taking journey to mean something more metaphorically, our lives are full of little satisfactions, and when you finish and you can say, that was a job well done. A task without end would be literally hellish, like in the ancient Greek myth of Sisyphus, who has to roll a large stone up the hill, but it keeps rolling down again. Hell, indeed, would be a tunnel with no light at the end. That is a scary, accurate picture of what our lives are like when we lose hope. A journey to nowhere is no journey at all, but really a kind of death. In the Bible, we read of the ancient Israelites wandering in the wilderness, seeking the promised land. The only thing that kept them going was hope and trust in the God who promised that they would get there. In adversity, they still trusted in God. They were living in darkness, but confident that the light would eventually dawn. This brings us to our great antiphon that we chant at Vespers today, on the 21st of December, O Oriens, O rising sun, or more poetically in English we have, O morning star. The English translation runs like this: O morning star, splendour of light eternal and sun of righteousness, Come and enlighten those who dwell in darkness and the shadow of death. This uses the prophecy of Isaiah in chapter 9 verse 2 and the powerful image of daybreak. The transition from darkness to light, from cold to warmth, represents many things. A transformation perhaps from fear to joy, from falsehood to truth, from death to life. The nighttime is an image of Israel before the arrival of the Messiah. As they waited, they dwelt in darkness and the shadow of death. In Jesus' time, they were living in the promised land, yes, but suffering under imperial occupation and yearning to be free. Again, in Isaiah, they would read and pray, "O watchman, what of the night? How much longer till morning?" But they had hope that God would save them, that the day would dawn, as in Psalm 130, "My soul is longing for the Lord, more than watchmen for daybreak. Let the watchman count on daybreak, and Israel on the Lord." Christians believe that Jesus of Nazareth is the Messiah. He is the morning star who has dawned on our world. He has brought Israel, and with them the whole human race, out of slavery to sin and death, by dying on the cross and rising to new life. At this point, we may wonder about a little paradox. When exactly, did this morning star rise? Was it when Jesus entered our world as a vulnerable little baby? Or was it when he rose from the dead and fulfilled his promises? And either way, why are we still battling against the ongoing realities of sin and death 2,000 years later? What difference, then, did Jesus really make? Does the morning star perhaps refer to Jesus' second coming at the end of time? The Christian paradox really is that the kingdom of God is both already and not yet. Jesus Christ has already saved us. Jesus was born at the first Christmas. He lived and taught, he suffered, he died and was raised, and ascended again to heaven. Those are all historical events in first century Palestine. But Jesus founded his church on earth, sending the apostles to bring the good news to all nations, and promising to return again in glory. In this way, a new journey began. Israel's wandering in the wilderness had given way to a purposeful journey of mission to the ends of the earth. So the kingdom of God is not yet fully established. Many people have never heard the gospel, others have rejected it, and still others might wonder what on earth all the fuss is about. So why is there this paradox? I think that the image of daybreak from our antiphon, O Oriens, can help explain it. As the earth rotates on its axis, an observer on the ground just before dawn sees a faint glow appear on the eastern horizon. Gradually the light grows stronger and stronger, until the sun itself comes gloriously, even mystically, into view. Of course, the rising sun doesn't just pop into the sky all of a sudden. Like before, we can think of everyday examples of why it's a good thing for things to arrive in their own time. To fly to the other side of the world is far less exciting than to travel by ship, especially if it's a pirate ship. Our modern society is increasingly built around the demand for instant gratification, but this season of Advent reminds us that good things come to those who wait. Ideally, it's so much better to wake up gradually with the natural light in the morning, and not by the violent intervention of an alarm clock. So there is a value to patience. St. Peter encourages us to think of God's patience with us as our opportunity to be saved. Who among us is really ready to meet our Maker right now? We should thank God that he is giving us more time to prepare for our end of our journey, extra time to get accustomed to the dawning light. As Emily Dickinson wrote, "The truth must dazzle gradually, or every man be blind." So God gently unfolds his salvation, just as he came gently and humbly into our world on that first Christmas day. And he gently calls us today to a new faith and hope in him. The journey is a very valuable metaphor for life, and Christianity gives it a new and exciting perspective. We avoid stagnation by constantly growing, and for the Christian, that means we must keep praying, keep growing in hope, keep nourishing our faith with the sacraments, keep flourishing as we become the persons God made us to be, and keep travelling hopefully until our arrival in God's kingdom. So we don't just travel with a stoical perspective, a persistence, but in hopeful and joyful anticipation of reaching our destination. Yes, we can't see the end, and that's why the Bible reminds us that hope is for things unseen, for things eternal. And by faith, we can be sure of what we hope for and certain of what we do not see. We therefore pray with Cardinal Newman, "Lead, kindly light. I do not ask to see the distant scene, one step enough for me." But we still keep our heads up, and not perceiving clearly, but travelling in hope, knowing that the day is already breaking, the kindly light ahead is growing, and the rising sun will appear at our journey's end. St. Paul's words of encouragement to the early Christians are as relevant as ever to us as we prepare for Christmas this year. The hour has come for you to wake up from your slumber, because our salvation is nearer to us now than when we first believed.
Say